This is just a short video to give you a bit of insight behind the scenes of my Blender scene, basically, from the latest animation that you might have seen on Twitter. This is data from a science paper that our lab recently published. And here we actually see a morphing of a model, of atomic model coordinates. So basically what I did was loading these morph files, these morph PDB files into Chimera X, set up the ribbons as tubes to my liking in Chimera X and export them as .grb and imported them into Blender. And I actually first split the model by chain. So I have the peptide and the receptor here in blue and white separately colored. I gave them different materials. So for example, the peptide in yellow or in different yellow tones, and then the receptor in different blue or pink tones. And then joined the file again so that it's easier to work with. So as you can see, I have a range of different ribbon files here. This is actually the different conformations this complex is going through in time. So the way I set it up was actually quite easy and straightforward. So basically, if we select all of these, you can see in the timeline this V-shaped pattern. And this is actually just showing that if we go to the start, that I turn on a particular structure and then turn the other one off. And if you continue looking at the right-hand side, you will see that this is basically just going through this entire model. I'll just switch the scene. And then looping back and forth. And you can actually, if you only have a handful of models, you can actually just set up one loop, one forward loop basically, copy this and paste it as reverse into the next scene, and then loop again. And that's basically it. It's quite simple, and I bet there's more sophisticated ways of doing that, and I'm happy to hear your suggestions in the comments. But this was relatively easy to set up if you just have a handful of models. And there's also a little bit of wiggling visible in the structure, if you might be able to tell. So this is actually just a noise modifier. So if we look at one of these in the graph editor, we can actually see that if we select the rotation, you can add modifiers to these different rotation models and then give it a little bit of a wiggle. You will also see that there's some movement happening in the membrane. So the membrane is basically set up using geometry nodes and a few modifiers. So first of all, we have a wave modifier that gives it a little bit of a wavy movement, which I think is kind of cool. It looks a bit more natural. And we also have geometry nodes that basically regulate the lipid density, so how many lipid molecules we have in the membrane. We do have also a membrane wave motion. And we also have some what I call lipid noise, so basically individual lipid molecules that are also moving independently from each other. So there's a lot of tutorials already out there about geometry nodes, so feel free to reach out to other people and look up these tutorials, but this is basically how I set it up here. And that's basically it for this video. I've also published another video where I'll talk about the zoom in animation. And other than that, thanks so much for listening and see you guys soon.